This is Sarah Leslie with Go All In, helping entrepreneurs live the life they want to live right now, making the money they want to make the way they want to make it, while also living a rich and full life outside of their business. True personal freedom. Let's go. Hey, hey, everybody. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that you are too. So, I don't know about you, but when I first started into personal development, personal growth, I started hearing this phrase, inner work, all the time. And I was a therapist for 20 years previously and I don't remember hearing that phrase or that term. It's totally possible that I was hearing it or that it was there, but it wasn't there like I understood it, came to understand it when I entered into more of the coaching realm of things, the coaching forums, industry, exposure to just personal growth and all the things related. And I know for myself, even after being a therapist for 20 years, as I started hearing this, I was like, what does actually mean? Like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. And so I wanted to just take an episode where we just really look at that phrase. What does that actually mean? Doing the inner work, and why it's so important to understand what is meant by inner work, and also why it's so important to embrace it and do it with regularity and consistency and basically allow it to become a way of living that you're always doing inner work, right? Which basically is growth. Another way that you can just easily define or think of inner work is growth. Real sustainable core level changing who you are into who you desire to be. That's actually the outcome of doing the inner work. So we're going to talk about, just get into the defining of what is inner work, how does it function, what does it look like, what does it not look like, and why do people desire to bypass it, and why you don't want to. Okay? So just in thinking about what it is exactly, it really is big picture, this change in who you are. It's a change, a shift in consciousness. It's a shift in awareness. It's you identifying consciously, this is who I have been, and this is who I desire to be. And so the mechanism that allows you to shift from this to this in a real, authentic way, in an easeful way, is doing the inner work. Okay? So that's like the bigger scope of this. And the inner work is that mechanism that allows you to actually change who you are. And so when we're talking about doing the inner work, what we're talking about is going within ourselves and looking at, consciously and intentionally looking at and reflecting on who you are currently being. Okay? And when I say that, it's like the personality of who you are, the things that make you you, and the things specifically that make you you that you don't like. Okay? So some examples of this would be like being controlling, being critical, being anxious, being fearful, lacking faith, feeling not provided for, having fearful thoughts about the future, being someone who needs to have a certain amount of control, who needs to know what's coming, who needs to be planned and prepared. Those are some examples, right, of the reasons why you would want to do the inner work and why it's important, like why you would want to change who you are. So another way that people talk about this, which I also agree with, is it's removing the parts of you that aren't really you, removing the parts of you that are distortions of what you've learned to be you. removing the parts of you that feel like they were taught to you or they were put on you. So, another way that you could hear it and maybe have heard it is it's restoring you to your true self, right? Restoring you to the you that feels authentic and open and expansive and capable of living exactly the life you desire to be living and being the type of person you desire most to be. So, all of that happens again in the most easeful way, happens in the most real, authentic way through doing the inner work. So, the inner work is that self reflection, that self awareness of seeing what is currently. Okay. So you're becoming aware and you're becoming conscious that you're, for instance, controlling, or that you're, for instance, anxious or fearful specifically about something, right? I mean, normally we don't just, I guess you could think of yourself. I mean, I definitely used to think of myself or became aware of myself as someone who was regularly anxious. And so perhaps that's something you can relate to. It could also be specific to feeling dissatisfied with your significant relationship. It could be feeling anxious in some ways around your significant relationship, or just anxious on behalf of your significant other, or fearful about money, right? And money coming in. You're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, and you're fearful about whether or not you can create the money that you want to be creating, or whether or not there will be enough for you and all of the things that you want to be doing in your life. So, whatever the part of you that you're feeling dissatisfied with or frustrated by, the inner work is the solution. And it's this becoming consciously aware of those parts of you that I just listed off. So you're becoming conscious, right? Self aware that you're controlling, or that you're having a lack of faith about the money, or that you're having a frustration about your significant other. Does that make sense? So it's this awareness of what is currently the most true about your experience, about you being you right now. What happens a lot of the times is people want to deny who they are. They want to deny those parts of themselves that they don't like. So if you haven't seen the movie Inside Out 2, definitely go see it. And for that matter, take a pass by Inside Out 1 if you haven't seen it as well, because they do such a phenomenal job at giving you the visual and the breakdown at like a elementary level. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to like see it a second time myself to like really continue to understand this and embrace it. I still am in that learning and like taking it in and brainwashing myself to believe how it's true, that we will disassociate ourselves with those feelings that are most uncomfortable to us, or those realities of ourselves that are most uncomfortable to our own experience. And we want to, in the movie, the feelings inside of the little girl's mind, put the feelings that are the most uncomfortable, the memories that are the most uncomfortable, way back in the far reaches of the mind, right? Known as the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, or even the subconscious mind. The far reaches where you just don't think about them in your day-to-day experience. And they do such a great job describing that in depth. So I would, again, really encourage you to go see that. And so the inner work is being willing to look at those parts of yourself that you have disassociated yourself from, that you've shoved to the back of your mind. It's bringing them out here front and center and being willing to look at them and understand them and see how they have contributed to you becoming fearful, controlling, critical, dissatisfied with your significant other, whatever the part is for you that's resonant to your current experience, so that you can change, right? Because we cannot change what we're not consciously aware of. So if we're in the denial of that part of ourselves, which this little girl, like, it goes through showing you how she wants to deny those parts of herself that make her feel bad about who she is and make her feel bad about what her life looks like. She's like just really beautifully describes how she wants to like not look at that part of herself. And so I just think of that as denial of self, denying of who you are. Okay. And it's this willingness to look at the whole you, including and most importantly, those parts of you that you have been denying, so that you can understand the way your mind has made meaning of those experiences, the way that your mind has been judging yourself for them, the way that your mind has distorted them and have kept you feeling bad about them. And that will be felt and experienced by you uniquely in so many different ways. So that's why I know that, like, it's not the experience, it's not the trauma, it's not the life experience that is actually the thing that determines how you respond to it. It's actually you that determines how you respond to the life experience. Because if it were the life experience, then anyone who had a spouse that tried to control them or a spouse who was to them, we would all end up having the same experience. We would all end up having the same reaction to that life experience. And we don't at all, by far. In fact, we end up having very unique individual responses to our life experiences, to our traumas, to the things that have happened to us that have been uncomfortable and self-defining in a negative way. Okay, does that make sense? So it's this awareness that it's you that brings the meaning to your own life experiences, the things that you have gone through, you bring the meaning to them. You are self-defining what those experiences now mean to you and who you will be. So we're bringing them front and center as a way of becoming aware of what meaning we have brought to those life experiences. What meaning we've brought to them, what thoughts, what beliefs, what agreements, what decisions we've made as a result of those life experiences. Also, what feelings we have now introduced to ourselves, to our lives, to our being of ourselves based on these life experiences. So let's say you've got school debt as something that's very common to people in their 40s, still having college loans, or maybe they've gone back to school later in life and they have like a huge amount of money that they now owe. And the way that you determine or have decided to feel about that loan is bad. I feel bad about having this huge amount of money that I owe back to someone else. And so you disassociate yourself with it, right? Where you like put it in the far reaches of your mind and you don't want to think about it because you feel bad about it. Because the meaning that you have put to, I went to school, I took out loans, and now I have this big school loan. And really, I don't feel super great about the fact that I went back to school because it hasn't actually panned out the way I expected it to. You have all of this meaning that you're attaching to the fact that you owe money, or the fact that you went back to school, or the fact that you spent all this money on college of some sort, or a certificate or an education of some kind. And so instead of continuing to go through life where you feel bad about it, right? You're bringing it front and center and becoming super conscious of how you feel about it and the meanings that you've attached to it and the beliefs that you've created around it and the decisions that you've made. So like maybe one of the things that you've decided is, I'm never going to invest in another certification or education or program again, because you don't want to owe money for something that you don't believe will actually bring increased value based on the experience that you've had here in the past. So you're becoming really conscious and clear about all of those thoughts, beliefs, decisions, feelings. And then you're working through them, you're questioning them, you're assessing them, you're becoming more clear and conscious, and also learning how to think about them in a way that will ultimately support your future goals and desires. So like, for instance, if you continue to feel bad about this school loan,
well, then there's a part of you that will always feel bad about you until you get that loan paid off. And even then, it has nothing to do with the loan. It's just the way you've decided to feel about yourself based on a decision that you made. And so you'll see a pattern of how you make certain decisions and then consciously choose to feel or unconsciously choose to feel bad about those certain decisions and then hold on to those decisions and hold on to feeling badly about those decisions and ultimately, more importantly, bad about yourself. And it will come out in all different kinds of ways, right? It comes out in overeating, it comes out in overworking, it comes out in being in relationships that really aren't as loving and kind as they could be, as you could be in. And ultimately, different forms of struggle is another way of thinking about it. Just if I put it in a blank way, it's like instead of allowing yourself to live in the richness of life, you'll gravitate to the struggle of life because you're carrying around shame and feeling badly about yourself as a result. Okay. And it all stems back to, in this example, this decision that you made to take out money for college or a master's degree or a certification of some sort. So, doing the inner work is the self reflection on the decisions that you have made, the choices that you have made, and shifting the way that you think about them, allowing yourself to create a new truth about them than the one you're currently believing, right? Because again, it's completely subjective to say it was a bad decision to take out that school loan. It's 100% subjective to think that way. Because another person, right, could take out a school loan that's a huge loan, the same amount of as money as yours is, and have a completely different viewpoint on that. Like whether it turned into what they decided or expected it to or not, doesn't matter. It's completely subjective, right? So one person can feel super bad about the school loan and the other person can feel amazing about the education that they got and the places that it has now taken them. And all that is different about the two people is the decision, the thought process that they have used to engage, chosen to engage with based on getting the school loan. Does that make sense? Is that landing for you? Again, this is applicable to everything in life. We bring the meaning to our decisions and our reflections on our decisions, which then guide us through the future and carry the feelings from those decisions to the future and into our future decisions. So the inner work allows you to become conscious of what you're going through life thinking about and how you're going about making decisions and places where you are allowing your decision making to be based on bad experiences from the past and shake it up so that you're conscious of doing that and you consciously choose to then do it differently, right? Because life most liberated and free, which I believe is what everyone is after, is liberation and therefore freedom, happens when we're making decisions based on our desires, not based on the past. And so you really have to be super present and very conscious of how you go about making decisions in order to support your heart's desires, your dreams, the things you want the most for yourself now and in the future. You have to be so present. And unless you're doing this kind of work super consciously and intentionally on a regular basis, you're just not going to be as present as you could be and as present as you would want to be and making decisions that will actually support your future goals. You just won't, because the mind is oriented and naturally gravitates to safety and making decisions that keep you safe, which is making decisions based on your past experiences so that you don't repeat them, right? Because that's ultimately what we most want to avoid is anything bad that's happened in the past. we absolutely don't want to repeat it in the future. So if you're not consciously and intentionally going in and bringing your fears and fearful experiences and judgments that judgments about yourself and your past decisions, you're bringing them front and center. If you're not doing that work continuously and intentionally, you just won't be able to be present. You just won't be able to be the most useful and in alignment and in the ease and the expansiveness of life. You just won't be in the freedom that your heart is actually craving to be in. Again, not for to no fault of your own and to no judgment of your own and who you're being. It's just the reality of how your mind operates. It's the neural pathways and the way that your brain fires and wires in order to produce any activity. And again, when you bring in the intentional and the conscious, then it fires and wires together in the way you want it to, therefore creating the results that you want. It's so, so good and profound and just different from probably what you have known as your reality up till now. So, the primary reason, of course, why people want to bypass this work is because it's uncomfortable, right? In the movie, they show her, like having moments of going into the memories that she's like stashed away in the back of her mind. And they are demonstrated in the movie as these like scary monsters, right? Those deep, dark parts of ourselves that we don't want anyone to see. And again, it's just the judgment that we've put on those experiences, because once you learn to like see the experience as something that's beautiful or something that's enriching who you are and enriching what your life experience has been versus seeing it as something that's terrible, everything just changes, right? And nothing has actually changed except for the way that you choose to think on the past experience. So maybe you had a parent who was really abusive, who was really mean to you. And when you go through the work of looking at this in a whole new light and you take the time to feel the feelings and understand feel the feelings and understand, and you allow you come out the other side as this, refined diamond, right? And polished and sparkly and beautiful and solid. Solid. Okay. So you're no longer like hidden and dirty and scruffed and really like in the struggle. You come out the other side polished and beautiful and solid, deeply, deeply rooted, more deeply, deeply rooted in the truth of who God made you to be. So why people think they want to bypass this is because they think it's going to be so uncomfortable and feel so like hard. The reality is it's just uncomfortable for a moment until you get through the process of it being refined, right? Of you being refined to come out the other side. So the reason why you don't want to bypass this is because you actually don't want to keep following the rules. You don't want to keep having all of these different systems and processes to follow and do in order to feel good about who you are. Okay. And you don't want to have to like continually, for instance, follow a certain rule forever, because ultimately that's not freedom. Following a bunch of rules so that you can feel good about who you are is actually not freedom. It's actually the old process that you've been following for so long. It's just a natural way to default back to try to create your future. But you get a year out from now and you realize, wow, I've just recreated another version of the past way of my living by the rules. I just feel a little bit better, but I don't feel liberated and free. So I've done this many times myself, where you change things around and you move things around and you reconstruct them only to discover it's still the old you, just dressed up differently. So that's why you as being a person who is ready to feel liberated, ready to be liberated and feel the most freedom in your life and feel the most good about who you are, this is why you don't want to skip over or delay doing the inner work. And again, my thing is do the inner work with another human who's aware and specializing in this type of work like myself so that you can do it in the most easeful way. Because what I find also, right, including for people like me, and I've had countless numbers of conversation with people who have studied this work, who like know the concepts intellectually. In the last year, I've had so many conversations with people who know this material and don't take the time to intentionally sit down and do this refining process because it's just literally uncomfortable to do on your own. It's again the way your mind is set up to just naturally put those things in the far reaches of your mind and not look at them. That's how we're just all naturally set up to do. So when you work with someone who partner with, right? And they're going to hold the space for you to be consistently and continuously doing the self reflective awareness work so that you can be getting more clear and more clear and more clear with exactly what it is that's holding you back. Because there's always, always, always something, my friend, that's holding us back. Every single one of us always have something in our thought process that is holding us back from having exactly what we want right now. Okay. So, partnering with someone like me, like a coach, like a mentor who holds that space for you to meet weekly in a safe container to be continuously looking at those parts of ourselves that we currently feel frustrated or dissatisfied by, or that feel the most scary for us to go in and look at, the parts of us that are held back in the far recesses of our mind, that person provides a safe place to do it on a regular basis. And again, when you're a person who already knows intellectually, this is the most important work, it is the easiest way to create exactly what you want. Even then, there's oftentimes, I'm finding, a struggle to actually commit to doing this work on a regular basis. That's why it's the most useful to simply commit to doing it with someone else, because when you hire someone else to help you, it's a commitment to yourself, right? It's not about the other person. It's a commitment to yourself to say, I believe this is the way. I believe this work is 100% true. I believe it's the most important thing for me to be looking at and doing on a regular basis. And I believe it's the most easeful way for me to become who I desire to be. Then you're just creating a placeholder for yourself to not let yourself get out of the work or delay the work or set up any kind of system or mechanism to not do it. Does that make sense? It's just like, it's like the foolproof way of making sure it gets done. And as you engage this work over time, you actually learn to really enjoy it. And you actually learn to really enjoy the container when you're working with the best right person for you. And so if you're not seeing those results with the person that you're currently working with, then it's probably just, for sure, bring it up with them, one, and really like tease this through first. And then two, it's probably just time to change mentors. It's just time to change who you're working with and decide you want somebody who's going to hold that kind of space for you and not let you, quote unquote, get out of doing the real most important work that you need to be doing in order to have the most freedom. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope this makes doing the inner work really, really clear, like what it is, the mechanism of it, what it looks like, and why you truly do want to be committed to doing this work so that your life can be the most free, which is why we go into entrepreneurship in the first place, right? To have the most freedom possible. Most of you know the primary way that I work with folks is one-on-one for 6 months in that coaching container that is super curated to you and what you have going on and what your goals are. and learning the shifts and the new ways of being that you most need to do in order to get exactly what you want right now, not later. And very shortly, if not already, possibly, I'm not sure when I'm going to produce this one, I'm starting a mastermind for coaches around sales and finding liberation and freedom inside of sales. It's not about creating sales pages or sales funnels. It's literally about finding the freedom to show up as yourself, the most powerful, and just allow yourself to attract in and be attracted to the best fit clients. So if that interests you, shoot me an email at sarahlesliecoaching@gmail.com, and I would love to talk with you about it further. That's it for me, you guys. Thanks so much for being here and spending time with me. Don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to the channel. All the links will be in the show notes that you need from today. Between now and when I see you next, go be extraordinary. Ready to hire your own personal one-to-one mentor to help you take your life and your business to the next level? Go to my website where you can sign up for a no charge, no pressure consultation where we can get to know each other better. I get to hear your vision. I'll help you understand exactly what's getting in your way. And if it feels like a good fit and I believe I can help you, we'll talk about what it looks like to work together.